Where is God? It's a question that people sometimes ask. Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, is reported as saying, in fact, I think there's even a recording of him saying, "We have been to the heavens and God is not there." Now, of course, Yuri Gagarin was a part of the atheist Soviet Union. And this message was a message that people wanted to say. Christians sometimes talk about God being up there, and people sometimes talk about God being him upstairs, and phrases like that. Is God up there? Is God here on earth? What is God like? Well, today we are thinking about how obstacles can be turned into opportunities. And we're going to focus our thoughts on a rather unusual book of the Bible in which the word God does not even appear. It may surprise you to know that there's a book in the Bible that God is not even mentioned. And that book is the book of Esther. And in the book of Esther, the name of the book comes from the main character, Esther. Esther was a young girl taken into captivity to become part of the harem of the ruling, occupying leader. And she may not have had very much say in this at all. In one sense, she had tremendous privilege because she had access to the corridors of power. In fact, even to the king himself. Esther stood out amongst all of the girls in the harem because it says that she pleased the king in the way that she tended to him and to his wishes. Now, we could judge that in all sorts of ways, but she finds herself in a very tricky place because she is from the people of God, the people of Israel. And her relative, her close relative, Mordecai, says these words to her. The background to this, The background to these words is that a powerful man within the empire has tried to influence things so that genocide will happen and the Jewish people will be wiped out forever. And Mordecai says these words. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. Now, Esther's situation was one with a tremendous sense of opportunity, living in the corridors of power, the favoured member of the harem. But it was also an obstacle. She could not be seen to associate with the Jewish people for risk of suffering the same fate as them. And the words at the heart of this book are these words. Who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this? When we face obstacles, when you face obstacles, is there perhaps an opportunity? When the time seems dark, is it perhaps that this time is a time of destiny? A time of darkness could be a time of destiny. As I am recording these words, many of the countries of Western Europe are looking at the possibility of a second wave, a second spike in infections for coronavirus. There is talk of an increasing lockdown as people's freedoms are restricted. Perhaps in some ways analogous to the captivity of the Jewish people at the time of Esther. Now, I'm not saying that anyone is in a position simply to speak to the king and that captivity will be turned over. But that sense of captivity and restriction, that sense of obstacle, what opportunities are there in it? It's often said, if life throws you a lemon, make lemonade. But we're talking here about something far more than that. The name of God may not appear in the book of Esther, but there is no question that God's purposes are being worked out. And one person, Esther, being told and being challenged, such a time as this. And so for you, in the restrictions of this time, or whenever you are watching this video, the obstacles you face, what are the opportunities? And what are the opportunities that go beyond your own ability? Esther depended on God. It may not quite be said, but there is a sense in which she is used to bring deliverance. It's not spelled out, but the Jewish people, as those who had this special calling to bring the awareness of God into the world for all people ultimately, the Jewish people were a people of prayer and are a people of prayer. Now, that doesn't mean every single Jewish person prays, but it does mean that they have patterns and they have practices and they have possibilities of knowing God in day-to-day life. And the wonderful thing for all of us is that those have been opened up. And perhaps the greatest obstacle that anyone has ever faced is that of Jesus Christ. The Bible says that he is God become man. And as he came towards the cross, it looked like the hope of Messiah, God's promised and anointed one, was coming to an end. It looked like the ultimate obstacle was in front of the plan of salvation. But remarkably, that obstacle was turned into the most incredible opportunity in the reversal of that scenario. As St. Paul writes in his letter to the Corinthians, "Where, O grave, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory?" Even death was not an obstacle. And because of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we also read that the power of God is at work in the lives of all those who know God and are called according to his purposes. As I'm drawing to a close, I have a sense that there are some who will watch this video for whom these words are particularly important. God is for you, whether circumstances seem to be with you or against you. God is for you. And God will be with you even as you recognize his invitation to walk through life with him guiding you and accompanying you and strengthening you and helping you to see how obstacles can become opportunities to bring the best in his world, his kingdom, good things, great things, transformation, hope, It may be that you're asking questions. Can this be true? Do encourage you to join us for Alpha. Look at our website, lma.church, and sign up to join us for Alpha online now. Wherever you are, you can join us. Do consider that. It's great fun and a wonderful way to explore your questions, whatever questions you may have. And I pray that you would know God's peace in the middle of the perturbations of life, in the middle of those things that are difficult. God's peace, which is described as the peace that the world cannot give. May you know God's peace, and may you see his possibilities as you live in whatever circumstances you are living in right now, and whatever circumstances you may live in the future.